Hey, 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 hey. We back, everybody. Welcome back to the Hands Off Our Children radio show. I've been getting texts, while I've been on break. People are enjoying this situation. They know what AKA Bernie Mac. This chick texted me and said, punk purrs. Oh my goodness. You're going to have to break that down because people want to know. They definitely want to know. Hold on, we're going to do it in a minute, definitely. But I just want to say to everybody that's listening, right now what we're talking about, I want to bring you up to speed. How we can help parents as outside mentors. We can help parents in the school, parents in the homes, in the schools, anywhere where parents, are having problems to helping their child excel. That's where mentors come in. And, my man, he's a teacher. He's been a teacher for years, definitely doing his thing, and he done seen it all, heard it all, been through it all. And he's always had solutions, but the parents sometimes, then went against him on his solutions. And what better person to know what your child needs than the teacher? The ones who's giving them the lesson and your child is rejecting it. And for some reason, if your child is rejecting the message, something is wrong. But it might not be at home. Parents got to quit taking it personal. It might not be at home. It might just be that the child don't know. And they embarrassed to get up in front of the class, answer whatever, my man, Mr. Neal might ask them to do because they don't know. So therefore they get smart. They say something slick. They find a reason to get kicked out of the class and they send the whole attention and the energy in another direction to divert what they're supposed to go up to the chalkboard to do. And it causes a problem and it erupts the whole classroom. And that's what we was talking about a minute ago. Now, when I ask him questions, and he's coming real, I don't need parents to get mad. I need you to listen with an open heart, listen with a loving heart that I care to do shows like this to help you all in your household for nothing, for free. I'm doing it literally on the love. And I'm cool with that. I'm really cool with that because the better we can make our children, the better lives can be for a lot of us. And you ought to, you know what? Let me tell you something. I'm going to say this real quick before we move forward. If you don't want to do it for you, you ought to do it caring about your grandchildren, your children that's having children, and they don't even understand life, and they don't even got a clue, but yet they raising these little lives, but teaching them on what? That's what we talking about today. So we got Miss Elsa Prado, we got Miss Peaches on the phone. I want to welcome both of y'all to the show today.
Thank you, Cogee. How's everyone today?
Oh, we doing okay. Doing okay. Miss Elsa Prado. Miss Peaches, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. Hey, Elsa.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Good.
Okay, so what I want to do, y'all know in the second hour and third hour, Elsa is my co-host. Elsa, I want to thank you for being on today. Elsa, we're talking about, children not understanding, what they're supposed to be doing outside of the household because maybe they're not getting it inside the household. And some parents feel like that, hey, don't blame me. I'm doing my job, but okay, maybe you are doing your job, but maybe like Mr. Neal said, you're not applying that much time or you're not applying that much knowledge to the child. But that don't make you a bad parent. If you don't know, you don't know. I want you to speak on that, Elsa. Then we're going to go back to Mr. Neal real quick. What do you think about Elsa? Also works in the juvenile court system. So you hear it all when the judges say, well, why is the child doing this? Where does the child get this? Is this something you do in the home? When it's really not. The children pick it up from the streets. How often is that, Elsa?
That happens quite a bit because a lot of kids are exposed to a lot of things, and sometimes the parents don't even know what their kids are getting exposed to. You don't know what your kids are getting exposed to when they're at their friends' homes, for example.
Right.
And unfortunately, what you may not allow in your home is exactly what they're doing at somebody else's house.
That's right. You're definitely right about that.
How are you going to do it to kind of, try to find balance in that area? Because sometimes you may say, in my house, I don't do this, but you don't know what they're doing at somebody else's house.
That's right. You're right about that. Yep. I hear you. Miss Peaches, real quick.
Coach, I was having a technical difficulties. Could you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
Okay, I wanted you to piggyback off of Elsa. What I'm going to do, I'm going to come right back to you, okay? I'm going to go ahead and let Mr. Neal. Mr. Neal, can you piggyback off what Elsa said?
Ms. Elsa, I have to say I totally agree with you. I used to work for the juvenile detention area, and we had a lot of students come into the area with situations of being with friends and being caught up in different things that they shouldn't have been caught up in, the wrong place at the wrong time. And you are correct. What kids do at home is not always transported outside the household in a good light. And then vice versa. Sometimes things that are at home that's in a negative light is also brought to the forefront when they go outside. So they don't think anything's wrong because they're already in a dysfunctional situation. When you're in a dysfunctional situation, you feel that everything is fine because you don't know any better. But, that's why I had said, we have real punks for parents, because sometimes the parents don't want to take accountability for the inadequacies of what they do of raising a child. If you did not want a child, there's a lot of people out here that would love to have children who can't have children, that will take that child and raise them to the best of their ability. There's no sense of being selfish or feeling that I have to do this because this is something I created. No, if you cannot handle raising a child, especially in today's society, which is way different from when I was growing up and when you were growing up. I think you're a little bit younger than me, player.
Yeah.
Times are very different. This computer age is crazy. Cyberbullying, regular bullying.
Right.
So, you have to know when to say when and throw the towel in, or know when to ask for help. And so we back to therapy again.
How often do you see in the schools, real quick, I want to ask you this. I'm going to jump around real quick, but these are like key things that I'm going to ask you. How often do you see the bullied being the bully now?
How often I see the bully being, you see that quite often because, the kids are smart enough to know how to play each other against each other.
Right, okay.
So, if people, they didn't like me because I went to one of the bullying classes before, because I'm the kind of person that don't believe in being bullied. And I teach my kids don't believe in being bullied. We're not going to be bullied. It just does not happen that way. When you teach a child to have self-respect and confidence for themselves, there is no someone else coming to knock you down or knock your principles down and understand. In fact, to be totally honest with you, I'm going to divert for a minute and come right back to it. But, we were having a conversation in the classroom today, and the kids were like, well, I spend the night at my friend's house because my parents say that it's okay. And I love spending the night at my friend's house. I said, that's kind of ironic because my kids don't like to spend the night at nobody's house because I make sure that my house is well taken care of. I make sure they have everything they need in the comforts of home so they don't have to go outside of home to go stay somewhere else.
Right.
That plays right into the part of understanding how and who is the bully. Because if you have enough self-confidence into yourself, no one's going to bully you. They may try to suggest some things to you, but your wit and your intellect speaks for itself before anything else can happen.
But if you teach your children the right way, 50% of them won't hang with a person that roll like that anyway. Well, right or wrong?
Well, you're right. Well, first of all, I'm from old school. So if you're going to go hang out with Billy Bob Thornton, you're going to have to bring Billy Bob to the house. I need to see Billy Bob. You know what I'm saying? Right. And before you talk about possibly spending the night, or even Billy Bob coming to your house to spend the night, I still need to see the parent. When I say punk parents, that's when the kids,
break that down.
That's when the kids run the household and tell you what they gonna do, and they walk out the house doing it. I'm going to stay with Johnny over here, and you like, oh, okay, well, you have a good night. You don't know who Johnny is. You don't know if Uncle Bobo live in the house. You don't know if there's some sex offenders around the corner. You have no clue. So if something happens to your child, the first thing you're going to say is, well, I let him go stay with the people over there, but you never met the people over there. Punks for parents is when you don't take the time out of your daily regiment to make sure that your child is fully taken care of. See, people understand that having children is one thing, especially if you had a child when you were young. I talked to a kid today. She's 17. Her mama 33. Y'all do the math. And then on top of that, the mama has 7 kids.
Oh, wow.
So at some point, you have to sit there and understand exactly who running the house. Right. Because after kid after kid after kid, now the oldest kid has to start taking care of the siblings. While the mama's still out. If you had 7 kids and you 33, I'm speechless.
Right.
Because at some point, condoms, the patch, the surgery,
the shot,
something should have came into preventive measures. And then she says, well, my mama have 3 or 4 different baby daddies and the 7 kids. Y'all do the math. What are you teaching your child? You're teaching your child it's okay to have these promiscuous things happen, and it's acceptable. And it's not acceptable. It's not okay.
It's not.
I'm
I agree.
sorry.
That's why we do this show. You're right. It's not acceptable when children are having it rough nowadays. But like I said, and I still stick to that on what I said, children are having children without having the proper tools to be able to take care of those children because they just don't know.
Well, if your mama 33 and your grandmama 45, there's a problem.
Yeah, you're right about that.
Then everything is a repetitive cycle. So when do you plan on, reproducing yourself? I mean, at what point do you tell your child don't reproduce when you have 7 kids and you started when you was 16, 17 years old? And what do you teach? What values and morals could you possibly be teaching your kid? Because I'm gonna tell you right now, it cost at one point $1.3 million to raise one child, in the way of going to school, clothes, college, the whole nine. $1.3 million. If you have 7 kids, that's like what, 7.1 million? How many? Almost 8 million. And if you making $20,000 a year, $24,000, and I'm not saying working at job for $10, $12 an hour is wrong. What I'm saying is, at some point you need to take a look at your life and make sure your child has a better life than what you had. Don't be selfish and still go out here and run around. When you had your first child, that was 25% of your life gone. Because that means that now 25% of your life has to be spent to make sure this child is right. 2 kids is 50, 3 kids is 75, and on the 4th kid, you gone. You have no life. Your whole life is surrounded and centered around that child. And it should be. Children. It should be. But we're not seeing that. You know who's picking up the tab for that, Cogee?
We are.
We picking up the tab for that.
That's right.
We picking up the tab. That's why we have, and let me break it down for you folks who are kind of simple. We're the ones that have to sponsor the backpack drive because you ain't got no money. So we have to sponsor the backpack drive, whatever drive we sponsor.
A little bit of everything when it comes back to school clothes.
Back to school
shoes. I done it all. Jackets, coats, you name it.
No. What you did was the football teams. Sponsoring the football teams.
Yeah.
And I sponsored 8 basketball teams by myself.
Yeah.
I put up $5,500 for the basketball teams, and I raised another $8,500 in the kids to feed them, to clothe them, and to get them ready for tournaments and the whole 9 yards.
Right.
And then what I had to deal with? Now, here you go. What happens when you take the kids to the game? Who gets into the game? The kids or the parents? So you can't answer that.
Come on with it.
Because the parent, Lord help me, the parent.
I know where you're going with it.
Comes out the stand and want to fight the referee.
Yeah.
And shows the kids bad sportsmanship.
Yeah.
So you still not teaching the child, okay, I'll put my kid in sports. But if you sit on the sideline cussing at the referee, cussing at the other parents, want to fight. One coach went out and beat up the referee on the field. Where is your parenting skills? At some point, you're going to have to play like Teddy and let it go.
Yeah, that's true. Teddy Pendergrass. You
Yeah,
got to break that down to some of these young people. To some of these young people that don't know.
I'm sorry. Teddy P. I'm sorry.
Teddy P. You got to break it down.
Some of y'all grew up on Teddy P. Reproductive system.
But see, what I want to do, I want you to come back through. If you can come back through next Monday, first hour, I got a heavy show with a young man that's coming on. He does church rap. He does, conscious music and everything. And he'll be on with us. But I definitely want you on that show.
I'm there.
I want you to come in first hour. You rock it again. We're going to finish part 2 of this conversation. And then I want you to be a part of that conversation that we're going to have in the second and third hour as well.
I feel so honored. I don't even know what to say. I'm almost speechless.
Oh, man. This is home. This is home for you.
I'm almost speechless.
He
didn't invite me to come back.
Hey, hold on. Right? We done been through so many staff members, board members. You done seen a gang of new faces.
No, what you've been through is called facsimile thereof. Now, can I break that down?
Break it down real quick.
Now, facsimile thereof is a person who presents himself to be one thing, but then in actuality, there's something totally different. Yeah. So when you dealing with people who are not on your team, who are not running in the same direction you running in,
right.
Okay, I'm going to put it to you like this because some folks slow, okay? In Japan, they have that train called the what? The bullet?
The bullet train.
Okay,
right.
So the bullet go by what, 200 miles an hour?
Rolling.
So if a brother's going 200 miles an hour, right, and the caboose is dragging you down to about 175, maybe 150, then what you gonna have to do? Disconnect the caboose and do what?
Keep it moving.
And keep it moving. Some of y'all folks don't understand about the little engine that could. Sometimes the little engine that could can't. You know, you can't help everybody in life.
Can't, brother.
You know, the little engine that could was, I think I can. Ooh, choo, trying to go up the hill. I think I can. No, I'm the bullet, baby. I'm going up the hill and saying goodbye while you still thinking about it. And that's what you're going to have to do, Cogee.
Man, I've been doing it.
You know, you've been doing that?
Yeah.
Well, you got to let that caboose go.
Oh, you already let the caboose go. You know, put it like this. You know, no, people let themselves go. It ain't even me. You know me. I can work through anything and work out anything.
That's
but
right.
if it ain't supposed to be that way, no,
Right.
I understand. But, hey, God bless them.
Right.
Good riddance. I mean, we got to keep it moving anyway
Right.
because when God put this in my heart to do what I'm doing right now, this dream and this movement wasn't for everybody.
Right.
So I can't get mad at nobody for not sticking around and not being a part of it. Elsa, we talk about this constantly, right?
Yes, constantly.
Right,
because
constantly.
It's not for everybody.
Right, Miss Peaches, right or wrong?
I think she has technical difficulties.
Yeah. Okay, we'll keep it moving. But what I'm saying is, you know, I can't be mad about that. I just say, God bless them. Do your thing. I'm going to do my thing. And I'm going to continue to spread this love, this knowledge to people.
Okay,
You know
wait.
what I'm saying?
Did you say spread the love?
Spread the love.
See,
and the
some people don't
knowledge,
understand. Some people ain't got that love. I'm sorry.
No, they don't. No, they don't.
Code, you know, everybody has a cold. Some people have cold hearts.
Yeah.
And love, L-O-V-E extends more than just the word love.
Right.
Love, that means you have to show it.
Yeah.
I mean, if you showing love, you never have to speak on it because you showing it.
Right. Right.
Everybody don't show love.
And a lot of people don't have the
sense.
skills. Well, that too. but the skills to deal with a problem and say, I'm grown enough to say, hey, I can get by that. We can keep rolling. We can do this. We can do that. And see, on my show, that's why I'm saying I'm not going to be mad at nobody because I'm going to teach my young people. You know what? Sometimes with the older folks, you got to let them go. They already set in their ways. They already going to do their thing. They already think they still 16. You know what I'm saying? You got to let them go. But the thing about it is you really do have to talk to the 16-year-olds, 8-year-olds, 9-year-olds, and 10-year-olds, and I'm going to teach them people skills. I'm going to teach them when you have a confrontation with somebody, you don't have to fight it out. You can talk it out. You can work through it. We'll agree to disagree, but guess what? We're going to keep rocking with each other. You know why? Because now we know where we stand. We know where we both stand. And that's what it's about on this show, man. So check this out. Everybody, I want y'all to stay locked in, stay tuned in. My man, a.k.a. Bernie Mac, Mr. Neal, he's coming back next week. He's going to rock the whole first hour. He's going to be in with a second and third hour. We're going to do part 2 next week. And he's going to have some more punk for parents knowledge that he said. And when we say it, we're not saying it to target nobody. I'll talk about him. No, that's just a phrase that we use saying, you run your house, respect that, and be that. You know what I'm saying? So everybody stay tuned in and locked in. When we come back, Miss Elsa Prado, we got a great guest with us, Mr. Michael Broussard. I think that's his name. I don't know if I'm saying it right, but he's the creator of Ask a Sex Abuser. Hold on. Ask a Sex Abuser Survivor. No. Right. No. I got that.
got it.
Ask a Sex Abuser Survivor. Right.
Yeah.
So we're going to come back in. We're going to definitely talk to him. And it's going to be a great show. Get your pens and your paper. I want y'all really to hear what he's going to say. He's very heartfelt. He's going to break a lot of stuff down to us. You know, my heart goes out to these guys, you know, who go through that because a lot of men can't step up and say, I've been abused. I've been through this. And this young man has said, you know what? I won't be silent. I'm going to step up and I'm going to, you know, definitely make it known, but I'm going to help people along the way. And that's why we do this show. So please stay locked in, stay tuned in, and we'll be right back. It's the Hands Off Our Children radio show. I'm your host, Cogee, my co-host, Miss Elsa Prado, and we'll be right back. Everybody, welcome back to the Hands Off Our Children radio show. I'm your host, Cogee, with my co-host, Miss Elsa Prado. Again, how you doing today, Elsa?
I am good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Elsa, we got a special guest in this second hour right here. He's definitely doing his thing. When I say making a great comeback, you know, going out and motivational speaking, talking to different people. His story is really deep. I mean, when I heard it and I watched it, I was like, wow, you know, he don't hold back no punches, and he definitely is trying to find the right words to get everybody to understand where he's coming from, but he's being transparent in his message to help people to say, hey, you know what? I can do that too, and I can come out. How important is that, Elsa? And then, we're going to bring him in.
It's very important because it goes in line with his emotional health. And emotional health is very, very important to a person because it'll make up everything for you, psychologically speaking. So, yes, I mean, the more transparent he is, the better. The healing process is much better. And not only that, the help that he's providing all these people, especially men that are ashamed and feel very, very embarrassed to talk about this or even come out and say, look, I was abused too.
Right. You're definitely right about that. Now, Elsa, I want to ask you one more question real quick. When I say what I'm going to say, I want you to tell me the first thing that comes to your mind, but also give me your analogy of how great you think it could be or, what somebody can take from it when they hear it. Ask a sex abuse survivor.
First thing that comes to my mind is, what has this person endured? The torment, the pain, the agony, the silence.
Right. That's right. You know what? And the thing about it is, when I read it, I was like, wow, what better person to ask than a person who's really been through it or than a person who ain't been through it, who's just going to give you some advice that they done heard from other people. That's good too, but hearing it right from the person's mouth who's been through it, I mean, it brings a whole different dynamic to the information that you're trying to get from that person. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, the testimony is the best part because this is a person that can speak it from, reality.
That's right.
This happened to me.
That's right. Oh, you're definitely right about that. Miss Peaches. Yeah, she's got.
Maybe she's having technical difficulties.
Yeah, she is. Okay, well, what we going to do, I'm gonna ask you real quick, Elsa, how proud are we to have him to come to the show today, speak on it, live on the air, and help others to move forward in the fight that we doing?
I just feel that you're doing something very, very, exceptional for men. I think that what you're bringing to the table is going to help a lot of men that are out there in silence. I think that men have been raised, or that there's this idea that men have to be strong and they can't voice and cry and feel the same emotions that we women feel. But I really believe that in the transparency part, that's where he's helping a lot of men, with the coping process.
That's right. You're definitely right about that. And I definitely want him to be a part of what we're doing. And we also want to assist him in any way we can as well. So I'd like to welcome to the show Mr. Michael Broussard. He's the creator of Ask a Sex Abuse Survivor. Michael, I want to thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I've been listening to your conversation, and I'm finding it very, very inspiring.
Thank you.
And I love the way you've framed what I do. So thank you, because that's really what it's about. It's about reaching out. It's about showing other people that these things can be talked about. It's about reaching out to my fellow survivors.
Right.
It's about letting them talk as well, which is a huge part of every time I do this show.
Mm-hmm.
It's about learning, and I've learned a heck of a lot, actually, from the audiences at the show.
Right, right. And you know what? I noticed when you do your show, you put a little laughter in it. Sometimes you even laugh at yourself just to show them, hey, come on. Let's get over it. You don't have to be that uptight. Am I right? Did I hit it on the nose?
Well, absolutely, too. I mean, the thing about it is, you tell somebody you're doing a show which is, about sexual abuse, and the first thing that comes to mind is, God, that's so heavy.
Right.
But the reality is, yes, it's a very deep, very somber subject, and it strikes the core of who you are. But the way that people survive and get through those times in their life, part of that is humor.
That's right.
People laugh to stay alive. And during the show, one of the first things I say when I come out, I immediately address the audience, because I want the audience to know that they can address me, that we can talk.
Right.
And one of the things I say is, listen, there's some stuff in this show that is downright silly.
Right.
Okay? I know this is a serious topic. If you feel like laughing, laugh. Don't hold it back because you're afraid you'll hurt my feelings. If you laugh, we take the tension away.
That's right.
And we all can talk.
That's right. You're definitely right about that. But I want to ask you, Michael, how long did it take you to get in that position and to get in that frame of mind to where they're not laughing at me, we're laughing at the situation that is in my rearview mirror, because I'm moving forward and I want other people to live that way as well?
It took a long time to find that particular place. Years and years ago, I did a show about this, which had no humor in it and was very dark and very angry.
Right.
And I think that's that's a phase that a lot of survivors go through. Is this? Why did the universe do this to me? This is not fair, and it's totally true.
Right.
That was a bad place to be. But as I got older, and I looked back at myself, and I started to learn some things about myself, and I started to come to the conclusion that humor is helpful, and that, I don't know, a lot of survivors that I've spoken to have the same problem that I have. It's low self-esteem. You feel very bad about yourself.
Right.
So if somebody laughs at something you do, you feel devastated.
Right.
But I have learned that there are some things, just as a human being, that I do that are kind of funny.
Mm-hmm.
And it's okay to talk about that. I mean, some of the laughter comes from things like, there's a bit in the show where I talk about, before I was abused, about the fact that before that happened, I was this little kid who loved to dance.
Right.
Any opportunity in front of anybody, I didn't care. I had no sense of propriety or anything. I just loved to dance.
Right.
And in the show, I danced. And I am a god-awful dancer. I'm really, really bad.
Right.
And it's really, really funny.
I hear you.
And that breaks open everything, because it's like, okay, I know I'm ridiculous when I do this, but I feel safe enough in this room with all of you to do this in front of you.
I hear you.
And to take that laughter and not feel bad about it, feel like we just shared all that. You know what I mean?
Right. Now, how many survivors that then contacted you, I saw your show, and they like, you know what, I just don't think it's funny. You taking it in a different direction, but, I just don't like what you do. I mean, where they try to make you feel bad for moving forward past your abuse.
I've had actually zip negative response to this.
Okay.
And the show isn't, and when I say funny, there's funny in it, but also there's a lot of very serious stuff in it as well. But I was surprised by that. I first started doing the show last June of 2014.
Okay.
And going into the show to do this, essentially what I did, let me quickly run down what the structure of the show is. The show has no script.
Okay.
My strengths are as an improviser and as a storyteller. And so I wrote a show that would play to those strengths. I have bullet points, and I know what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about my story. But there's also things that may or may not come out depending upon the audience feedback I get. Because I break during the story to talk to the audience and have them talk back to me, and what they say shapes what I do next.
That's right.
So it's very much a collaboration.
Right.
Now, I went out with this like, my God, I'm going to prepare for the show. What I essentially did is I sat at home, and I went over in my mind and started talking through the things that had happened and what had happened and how they'd affected me. And I found basically that in order to do this show, I had to open up a ton of old wounds.
Right.
To be honest, to be truthful.
Yeah.
And when I did that, I'm human. I cried. I felt horrible. I started shaking. Things were tough. But as I was putting it together, I was like, you know what? The things that make me shake, the things that make me cry, those are the things I have to keep in the show.
I hear you, man. You definitely
and I went in, exactly, and I wanted to be honest, and I wanted, and also to show other people that it's okay to have this reaction. It's okay to be human. It's okay to need support sometimes.
Right.
And I went in going, there's going to be somebody who's going to have an agenda against, the whole idea of speaking out about this. Is going to have a problem. I'm going to get vulnerable, and I'm going to get shot down.
Right.
I went out from the first performance, first time, nothing but love, support, encouragement during, after, and weeks after the show. Every time I've done it, I've often said that I went out there and I leap off a cliff at least 3 dozen times during the show.
Right.
Every time I jump, the crowd catches me.
I hear you.
Without exception.
Right. Let me ask you this real quick, Michael, and then Elsa, get ready. I want you to come in. Michael, we see where a lot of people who've dealt with abuse, they're taking their lives, they completing suicide, they drug addicts, alcoholics, everything, just suppressing what they're feeling. Did you go through anything like that? Have you tried to take your life before? I mean, I'm asking you this because your story is what can help build the next person up. And if you did any of those things, and we know you didn't complete suicide because you're here on the show right now. But
Fair enough.
Right. But what I'm saying is, what strength or what did you find inside of you to hold on and move forward to get to where you are right now?
Well, I will say, I never committed suicide, and that's simply because I have such an enormous fear of death. I could not even perceive that as a possibility.
Okay.
there was a large chunk of my life where I was so incredibly depressed and beaten down by life
Right.
that I basically felt like I was looking up from the bottom of a black pit and I couldn't see the top.
Okay.
Yes, I did. I was an alcoholic. Yes, I was drug addicted. I had all of these issues. I am so thankful today that I am alive because there were so many times that I could have not survived. The universe saved me for something. I think this is what I was saved to do, because I thought I wasn't going to live, and what it took was a lot of. I was basically just holding on by my fingernails, you know.
Okay, let me ask you this. You said you were hanging on by your fingernails, but even though the universe had a different plan for you, what was the resilience inside of yourself that said, no, this won't be me. I won't suppress my pain no more with drugs, alcohol, abuse, or anything like that. I'm going to make a change. How did you get help, and how did you get on this road that you're on right now?
Well, I think the main thing that helped me was finally finding friends. Because I was very isolated as a child. I was so pushed away from things. I mean, the abuse, I was looking at some of the stuff that you were playing earlier about grooming and all that.
Right.
And I was this personality that went intentionally away from anybody who wanted to be my friend because I was so terrified of them finding out what was inside of me and them being horrified by who or what I was.
Right.
So I went through a lot of that. And this is going to sound wacky, but it's true. The thing that saved me was getting involved in Doctor Who fandom in the 1980s.
Okay.
I started going to conventions, and at that point in my life, I wouldn't talk to anybody. I couldn't look anybody in the eye. I was always looking at the floor.
Right.
I couldn't deal with anybody because I was so afraid of them seeing who or what I was and thinking there was something wrong with me.
Mm-hmm.
And I got pulled into these conversations at conventions talking about all this stuff, and accidentally I ended up finding other human beings who I could talk to about at least this one thing that we had in common, because I thought I didn't have anything in common with anybody.
Right.
And as that went on, I got to know this one person who lived down in the Philadelphia. I was in New England at the time. I lived down in the Philadelphia area. And she was different than the other people I had met. She was deeper. She had more understanding of life.
Okay.
You know, she was older than me. We started talking. Somehow I got up the courage to tell her what had happened. And she was the first person.
Right.
And she responded not by doing everything I was afraid of, which is running away screaming, but saying, you know what? I'm here for you. She held me. We cried. She was there. She offered me help in getting out of the terrible situation I was in at home.
Okay.
She helped me pull myself up out of that pit.
Right.
And that was a miracle for me, you know?
Right. I hear you, man. You know what? And I definitely want to say, thank you again for taking time and coming on the show. And that's why I didn't want to give you an hour. You need 2 hours. I mean, it's a lot that we want to get out of you because, I mean, your story's deep and we ain't even got to it yet. And I was waiting until the third hour. I just want to talk a little bit, and I want my team to ask you questions. But when they ask you questions, don't give away too much of the plot of what's going to happen in the third hour, okay?
You got it.
All right, Miss Elsa Prado, I'd like you to meet Michael.
Hi, Michael. It's a pleasure having you here. I'm really glad that you're here with us today.
It's great to meet you as well.
And I wanted to ask you something. You know how you were saying how important it is to have somebody to be that support? How many years did it take before that happened?
I had been locked up inside myself since I was 9. That didn't happen until my early 20s. And even that wasn't the end of it. There was still a lot of negative stuff that happened after that, but that was the beginning.
Wow. So
I'm 50 now, and this is, for the first time in my life, I feel like I am strong enough to do what I'm doing now, you know?
Exactly. No, I can sense it in you, that you're this really strong person now. And of course, I can also see that you've done a lot of healing along the way. But you know how you were saying that initially you had that dark person because you hadn't healed. You were still all that rawness and all those emotions and all those things that needed to be worked through. But as a man, how important it is to get all this out as men, because what we really want to do is we really want men to come out of that whole idea, that stereotype that you guys can't talk about these things.
Yeah. I mean, it's a barrier, and it's a frustrating barrier. I think that I did go through for a very long time, and like I said, there was this woman in my 20s who helped me to talk about it a bit. But there were decades after that where things were bad, and I was just climbing and trying to figure out who I could talk to and who I couldn't talk to, and whether I could admit this freely and let people. I was always afraid if I let too many people around me know what had happened to me, they would always judge me by that. I would always be their friend who was abused, and there would be nothing else. And that's one of the reasons I'm doing the show, because I think that, I mean, the show actually deals with, my experiences, and also in the interaction in the audience also deals with female perspectives as well in it. But for me, I'll give you an example of something wonderful that happened at a show in November. After the show was over, these 5 guys walked up to me. Turns out they were an entire peer-to-peer support group for sex abuse survivors, male sex abuse survivors. And they'd come to the show as a group as their outing for that day. And they were all over the moon about how much easier it was going to be for them to talk about this tomorrow than it was the day before because of the show. And you're right. I mean, that's a hard thing for guys to admit that they've been through this and that they need help and that they can talk about these things, that it's okay.
Exactly.
It's okay to be vulnerable.
Yeah, that's true.
And our listeners need to hear that. They need to hear that from the survivors like you. They need to hear it from the men, because there's these, preconceived notions about what a man is. And I think that's part of the problem we have in society. It's like, it's not okay for you guys to cry. It's not okay for you guys to be in pain. It's not okay. You just have to be tough. And I think that whole macho thing hurts men much more than we know.
That's right. You definitely right about that.
Well,
yeah.
Can I jump in real quick?
Okay, go ahead.
I'm just gonna jump in real quick, Michael. I want to say, I applaud you for your courageousness of being able to speak out against things that happened in the past. Because a lot of people just don't speak out. Period. Whether you're a man or whether you're a woman, you still, and especially a kid, you still don't speak out about things that you feel is a dark, a part of your life. And so I applaud you for doing that. And I also want to tell you that it's easier nowadays to hold this conversation than it was to hold it 10 years ago. To hold it 20 years ago, because certain things back in that time was more taboo than it is today. I mean, we don't have a real stigma about anything being taboo these days. Everything is out on the internet and everything is out in the public. So, and you've been able to laugh it off. Elsa, you said something that was also very good about how men don't always, express their feelings. And I think that's because of the fact that we've heard so many times from different parents, be a man. Men don't cry. I don't want to see no more crying. I'm going to give you something. If you really want to cry about it, I'm going to give you something to cry about.
Right.
And then you learn how to be macho when you don't even know what macho really is.
That's right.
And I'll be the first one, and I tell my kids, I used to give them a on the record, off the record kind of thing, where on the record you can be reprimanded for the things you do, and you have to tell me what they are. But off the record, we're going to sit here and just talk about it. And I think that maybe that's what a lot of people need to do, men and women, learn how to be more open, not only with their kids, but be open with themselves. Right. A lot of people are not open with themselves. I mean, they don't know how to express their feelings about where they are in life and which direction they're going in, because they feel as if they're not macho if they say things that doesn't sound macho.
Can I jump in real quick? I want to ask you a question, but I want Mike to answer it too. This is a 2-in-1. You being a teacher, how have you dealt with a young man, a young woman coming to you saying they've been abused, they going through this, but society and all the other teachers just think this child is a hellraiser, this child is a problem child, a head case and everything, but once you found out what the real root of the problem was, how did you deal with it? And hold on, Michael, you first, how did you deal with it in school?
Well, I'll tell you, in school, the abuse, and I'll go back to the grooming thing again, the abuse and the grooming to keep me quiet basically resulted in me not being able to talk to anybody or to look anybody in the eye, and that included everybody at school. So in school, I didn't speak to another student for years and years and years, and that, of course, that was a terrible experience for me because that kind of made me a target, and so I was bullied a lot because I didn't talk to people or look people in the eye. But that was basically my situation in school. Was I was by myself, I had no friends, and I was terrified to talk to anybody. So that's where I was at that point in time because of what had happened to me.
Wow, so you shut off from everybody.
I shut out completely.
Wow. So let me do
So
this.
were you like a loner all the time?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I was that kid in the corner, you know. A lot of my life, actually, a lot of my adult life as well, to a degree.
Wow. Hold on, let me do this real quick. Mr. Neal, I want you to answer the question. Now, as a teacher, how did you deal with that, and what did you try to get the other staff members, principals, counselors, and other people to understand that this is a serious thing that this child is dealing with, and that's what's making them to somewhat degree of what they think is a head case?
Well, and sometimes it's kind of hard to really decipher exactly where I pick out all the students that I call introverts in my classroom. So I don't call my students by their first name. I call them by their last name because I need them to understand that you need that respect right out front.
Yeah,
so I
that's
call
true.
them by their last, Mr. or Mrs., and then we talk about it.
Yeah.
And we laugh about it. Good morning. That's the first thing you do when you enter the classroom. You
Right.
good morning me.
Right.
You look at me in my eyes. We talk about these things. But when I feel as if they're being withdrawn or being introverted, then I pull the kid to the side. In fact, it's kind of ironic that you asked me that because I just had that conversation with a kid just yesterday.
Wow.
You know, his father was physically abusing him, and I had to turn the music up in the class and have him sit down so we can have a conversation without being distracted. And he actually told me what was going on and how it was transpiring in the house. I want you to call my father. I need you to talk to him, tell him what's going on, have him believe what I'm telling him is true in the classroom. And I had to call the man. I was like, listen, you know, your son is an excellent student. Your son is doing this. He was like, well, I didn't think he was doing anything. I'm like, he's doing a lot of stuff, and I'm building up. But on my end, because I am a court reporter of the state, you know, if something is being physically abused, I have to report it. So yes, I report it to the counselors, and I have to report it to my administrators and tell them what is going on. Even if it's not a sexual thing, even if it's just regular physical abuse, I still have to report it because CPS will have to get involved. But before I even call CPS, I have to sit there and I have to. You said this, Michael. You said this when you first started. See, I'm listening because I'm listening to what you're saying. You have to listen to what the person is saying, and
Yes.
It's more than just their body language. It's the words that's coming out their mouth that makes a real impact on where they are.
Right. There you go. Miss Peaches, chime in.
Hi, Michael. Thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you.
I urge everybody to check out your YouTube. It's just a short 7-minute video, but it really gives a nice insight to who you are and what your show is about, and I think everyone should definitely go check that out. Cogee, I'm sure our producer has put it on, Facebook or whatnot. I wanted to ask you, how did you know that the lady that you became friends with was an adult that you could trust? What made her different through all that you had been through to know that she was the one?
Well, she was having some sort of personal issues in her life as well. And the relationships, the friendships I'd had at that point, up to that point, were more sort of surface. They didn't really go deep. And she was the first person who, started to talk to me about what was going on in her life because she was looking for an outlet and somebody to talk to. And I think that kind of established a more intimate bond emotionally. And that's what led me to start to believe, look, I could tell her. And it didn't happen all at once. It was more just like a little bit here, a little bit there. And then there was one night when the dam broke and everything came out. But yeah, it had a lot to do with the fact that she had already started sharing with me because I was a very guarded person. And I kind of had to be coaxed out of my corner. And that's basically what happened.
And have you all been able to remain friends, or has there ever been a time that you felt mistrust for her as well? Because I know that in a lot of situations with other survivors that we've had on this show, it always seems like it ends up that their relationships, there's mistrust involved, or something happens with the person that they put their trust in and that they let their guard down with.
I have experienced that for sure in life with people that I made a mistake with, and that it was the wrong person, and I felt like that. With her, it didn't really turn out that didn't happen, but we just sort of grew apart after a while just simply because of what was going on in her life and what was going on in my life, and we went off in different directions. So I still remember her fondly, but we haven't spoken in many, many years.
Right.
What I'm very fortunate in having these last 10 years or so of my life is I actually finally had a healthy, normal romantic relationship. I got married, and I've got a wife who I can turn around to and say, you know, I'm feeling really triggered today, just so you know.
Congratulations.
And she knows what it's about, and she knows how to be there for me,
Right.
which is such an amazing thing in life.
Right.
And so rare.
So look, what we have to do, we have to get ready to cross over into our third hour. Now, I want us to freeze right here, and we want to talk about when we come in about you being in this relationship. We want to talk about the triggers, and then we're gonna move real steadfast to your story, because your story is deep, and I've really got some questions to ask you, and I want you to break it down. So everybody, if you're just tuning in, you know, thank you. It's the Hands Off Our Children show. We got Mr. Michael Broussard on the show. He's the creator of Ask a Sex Abuse Survivor, and it's a great show. Go to my website. You can see it. Go check it out. I'm sure you'll love it. Stay locked in. Stay tuned in, because when we come back, we got a great interview with Michael you don't want to miss. The Hands Off Our Children radio show, and we'll be right back. Hey, we back, everybody. Welcome back to the third hour of the Hands Off Our Children radio show. I'm your host, Cogee, with my co-host, Miss Elsa Prado. Miss Elsa Prado, again, how you doing? Thank you. And Elsa, what do you think about the show today?
Some awesome guests today.
What'd you say?
I said we have some really awesome guests today.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, and I mean, the show's booked up. So we got some great guests coming through next week as well, but I'm definitely thankful for who we have here today. And I mean, it's a blessing that they come to help me out, to help me and you get the message out there to everybody, because that's what we need. And Elsa, you already know, me and your cape just ain't big enough to take care of everybody. We need all our super friends to come in and make this happen. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, definitely. And not only that, it's just the support, you know, because the bigger our support team for this, you know, whole situation with the children, the better we will be.
That's right. You're definitely right about that. So I want to thank you, Elsa, again. Miss Peaches, I want to thank you. Miss Peaches, you back. I'm so happy you back. You know, I know you laid back and you let everybody shine that was around. You know, you wanted to give everybody their time, you know, to get settled in and do their thing. But, you know, hey, you know, you always in the loop. But thank you for having my back and being back.
Absolutely, Cogee. You know, I'm always here for you.
Oh, yeah,
and,
definitely.
You know, your show helps a lot of people, and a lot of times when they feel that the help is enough and then they can move on and they don't need any more help, they do, you know, go their ways. But I think your show, Cogee, it's a constant dose of greatness that you need, and so I'm always here, you know, part of the team, and definitely have your back for whatever the conversations may be.
That's right. I thank you. I do thank you for that. And we got another one of my super friends in. I mean, like I said, my cape ain't big enough. Elsa's ain't big enough. But all our capes all together, we gonna reach somebody and definitely change a lot of lives as super friends. My man, my brother, Mr. Allen, man. What's up with you, man?
Hey, Cogee, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. Now, even though Allen, man, you know, we ain't going to speak on it, Allen, man. Even though Allen, man, had something going on with his family today, me and him talked for a long time before the show today. I told him, no, don't worry about it, man. You handle your family. I'm good. He said, you know what? I got to get my voice on this show because, you know, I got to help the people. And I won't feel right unless I come on for a few minutes and, you know, shine this love on the show. And I want to thank you, Alan, man, for that. I really do. And I want to ask you real quick, what makes you feel like, you know, your day will go better, even though you having your trials and tribulations, but your day will go better when you can come on this show and just say something that can help somebody real quick?
Well, Cogee, the thing is, it's important. You know, we're reaching out to the kids, we're reaching out to the families. You know, like you always say, take a village, you know. And I'm part of that village, and I want people to know that I am here, I care. You know, I support you for everything you do. I support everyone on our team. You know, I thank God for everyone on our team because all together we are one, and divided we'll fall. So we want to stay together.
Oh, yeah.
And I want everyone to know that I am here. So if you need me, call on me. and I will do anything I can to help.
That's right. And we got my man Bernie Max in the house. Alan, man, real quick.
Hey, Bernie, how you doing?
You know, I'm blessed, bro. I can't even complain.
Hey, that's great. We are all blessed, and we're trying to pass that blessing on to everyone who's riding with us, listening to us, who listen to us week after week, for our great words of encouragement, and for all the knowledge and all the professionals that Cogee bring on the show to help everyone who's going through something.
That's right. But you know what, man? Let me tell you something. I say it again. I'm only as great as my team. I never take the trophy by myself. Anybody that know me personally, no, I don't. I'm great as my team. I have a great team in this show and outside of this show now with what we trying to do and what we trying to build. Man, we great change a lot of lives, man. A lot of great things are great to happen. Let me tell you, me and my man Bernie Mac, we talk on the phone all the time, and he said, Cogee, let some things die. Let them die. Let them stay dead. Keep moving and let the new things grow in your life. And I thank you, my brother. You're definitely right about that. You know what I'm saying? Some things that I had, issues with, I was thinking a certain way, and he said, no, let that go. Don't bring it, don't rebirth it and bring it back to life. And, I thank you for that. I definitely do.
Well, we all keepers to one another. We need to always build each other up from the ground floor. I say ground. Why do I say the ground floor? Because that means everything is a foundation.
Right.
And once you create that foundation of a friendship with somebody, it's hard to let that wind blow through. It's hard to let that gossip roll through. It's hard to let anything roll through to blow your house down. You know what I'm saying? What the wolf say? I huffed and puffed.
I'll blow your house down.
But if you don't have that, if you got that foundation, that house is strongly built out of brick. Ain't nobody gonna come through and tear away your friendship. You know what I'm saying? Somebody can come and say, "Oh, I heard." See, but you got to look at it like this: a dog that brings a bone gonna take a bone.
You're right about that.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So look, I'm gonna give you a little message. Okay, you ready for it?
Ready. We're gonna move on.
You ready for that?
Ready.
Watch them dogs.
Oh, that's right. E, I want to thank you for being on the show with us today.
Oh, I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to learn from all our great panelists that we have, too.
I hear you, man. I appreciate you. Now, we got a special guest that's on here, everybody, Mr. Michael Broussard. He's the creator of Ask a Sex Abuse Survivor. Michael, I want to thank you. And, Michael, what have you thought about the show today? And we ain't even finished yet. It's really great to get good. But what do you think about it thus far?
I think it's great. It's one of the best conversations I've had about this in a long time, so thank you for having me on.
Thank you, man. I do appreciate it. Now, Michael, right when we left off, you had said you got married, and you got a wife, and you tell your wife sometimes, hey, you know what? Hold on. I'm having one of those days. These are my trigger points. Now, what I'm going to ask you, and then Elsa, I'm coming to you. Now, everybody, we need to move fast because I want him to tell his story, but I also want y'all to be able to ask him questions towards the end of the show. So let's not make them long questions and drawn out. Now, what I want to ask you, Michael, and it's not, I promise you, it's not nothing towards you, but I need to ask you this because you're going to help a lot of people. Did you ever have an identity problem, with your sexuality?
Yes, I actually did have an identity problem. A very strong one growing up. I wasn't sure where I was or what my orientation was.
Mm-hmm.
And it took a long time to figure it out.
Right.
Because I think that throws you into, I was sexually assaulted by my stepfather, and I was also sexually assaulted by several other men over the years following that.
Mm.
And it would have been okay with me if I had been gay. But I wasn't. It turned out I wasn't. But it took a long time to sort it out.
Okay.
And I think that's something that a lot of people can relate to.
Okay, I want to ask you this real quick, and then we're going to move to your story. When you say it would have been okay for me to have been gay if I'd have turned out that way, why do you say that, and what do you mean by that? Because I also want you to answer the question, but to teach when you say it as well.
Well, I think that as we're learning now, more and more every day, there are a million shades to this rainbow. Okay?
That's right. I hear you.
And every one of them is valid.
Okay.
I have a brother who is gay. I mean, there are gay people. There are people who identify with, as some equal of either sex. There's trans people. There's this entire community. Some of us are heterosexual, some of us are homosexual, some are trans. And that, because I grew up, as bad as things were, the one thing I did, though, that did help me is I grew up in a very liberal area in Massachusetts. So I had this open-minded attitude about that sort of thing. So I was open to the idea and it just turned out that I wasn't. And I was straight, which is fine too.
Okay.
But it would have been fine. I mean, people come in all different shades, sizes, orientations, and colors.
Right.
And I respect every one of them for who they are.
Okay. I hear you. I definitely hear you for that. Now, what I want to do, I want to ask you this real quick. When you think of the age of 6 years old, you being 6 years old, children playing, children having fun, children not even worrying about bills, children just living what is supposed to be a beautiful life. Now, we're going to start your story right now, and it starts at 6 years old.
Mm-hmm.
What happened to your youth at 6 years old?
Well, at 6, I was, like you said, I didn't have any real worries. I felt good about life. I felt happy about life. I wasn't insecure. I was very gregarious. I was very outgoing with people. I wanted to talk to everybody. And what happened is that at 7, that's when my stepfather started. I don't know how much detail you want, but that's when my stepfather started to abuse me. Yeah, and that turned my view of what life was from something very bright and safe, something very dark and unsafe.
Okay, but hold on. What I want to do, I want you to go ahead and just say it and tell the story. Now, you said, how it all started, how it got started was go from when you found the Playboy book.
Okay, yeah. Well, what started the whole thing was that I had been digging in my parents' bedroom because when you're a little kid, you want to see everything and know everything.
Right.
And I found this Playboy magazine, and I'm looking at this magazine, and I didn't know what the heck I was looking at because I was 6, okay? But my mom caught me, actually, that was when I was 7, excuse me, not when I was 6, when I was 7. My mom caught me with this magazine, and she figured it was time that I should be given the talk about sex because obviously I was thinking about it, which I wasn't. So she had my stepfather do it, and my stepfather took me in the bedroom and he locked the door. And the way he chose to explain sex to me was to unzip his pants and was to make me touch him. That's the way he chose to explain sex and sexual relations. And that was the first contact that I had with him in that way. And I was 7, so I really didn't know what was right or what was wrong or what was... I felt weird about it, but this was my guardian. This was essentially my father. So that was the beginning of the grooming process. And it became this thing where he slowly but surely moved me to the point where it got a lot more serious. And it got a lot more when the assaults became straight up rape later on. But that was the beginning and how it kind of oriented me into this idea. And again, I was 7. I'm still forming my idea of what the universe is about and how people behave. So to me, that was more information.
Right. Did you feel at the time, even though you were wrong, and Elsa, I'm going to come to you, did you feel at the time when that was happening, we all have a sense of like, it's something ain't right. You know what I'm saying? When we're young. Yeah. Did you feel something ain't right? You my father. You're a role model in my house. You the king. You my hero. And you doing this to me. Did anything trigger through your mind on that? Or if it did, at which time, in which one of those times? The first time, second time, third time?
Well, I think that I felt weird about it from the first time, from that first story I just told you. I felt weird about it. I just didn't know why I felt weird about it, but it felt strange. It didn't feel like this made sense, but I had that conflict in my mind saying, but this is my dad. So, yeah, I did feel weird about it, and certainly when it got to the point that it became the thing where it straight out became, I know this is wrong and this shouldn't be happening to me, was the first time he raped me. Because there is no mistaking that. That was horrific, unbearable pain to the point that I had to disconnect from what was going on and go somewhere else in my mind to get through it.
And this was a stepfather.
This is my stepfather, yeah. But my natural father, I had not known him because he left when I was less than a year old. Oh, okay. So to me, this was my father.
Right. I understand. Elsa, real quick.
So did you ever communicate what was going on to your mother? Because unfortunately, I've had conversations with other men that have told me that they never told their mother for some reason. Did you tell your mother?
I did tell my mother. It took a long time for me to get to that point. And I talk about this in the show, but I still don't know how I was able that one day to tell her because I was so terrified of what he would do to me because he had told me in detail what he would do to me if I ever told anybody. So I was feared for my life. And this one day, one time, I wrote this little note to my mom. Somehow I encouraged for like 5 seconds, and I told her about it. And you say, you know, a lot of people never were able to tell their mother, tell their parents. I think also I know people, even within my own family now, because as the years have gone on, I've learned that other people in my family were abused by other people, that some of them told and were disbelieved. And I'm finding that's the experience of a lot of my fellow survivors is they tell, but their parents refuse to believe that it's going on. They know, well, my husband, your dad would never do that, or your uncle would never do that. You know, you're just making stories up. And of course, that's devastating to a kid. So I think rule one is believe, and then investigate. But rule one, believe, so you don't do any psychological damage to that kid, because that may be the only time they get courage.
Wow.
My mom, thank God, believes me.
Right, right.
And I found out in more recent years why I think, I have a theory as to why she believed me. I don't know for sure because she's passed on now. But I believe it's because I'm about 98% sure she was abused as well.
Right.
Which I didn't come to the realization of until after she had passed on.
Right.
She was abused as a child.
Have you ever thought to yourself, if I never would have got caught with that Playboy book? Does that ever cross your mind?
Yeah, that was my fault. That connection to me was, if I hadn't done this, this wouldn't happen to me. It's my fault.
So you felt like as you got older, it might have been punishment from the universe. You get what I'm trying to say?
Exactly.
From something higher.
Exactly. You feel like you deserved it. Because I was convinced. I mean, if you look at, I know other people had this experience. I certainly did. My stepfather wasn't just sexually abusive. He was emotionally abusive. I mean, he basically beat me down to the point that I thought I was nothing in every interaction we ever had. I was stupid. I was useless. I wasn't living up to his expectations. Why wasn't I a normal kid? All this stuff. So, you know, I was beaten down to this little tiny nothing. And I felt all of it was my fault.
But when he asked you why ain't you a normal kid, did he ask you that before the molestation started, or did he started saying that after the molestation has started and you was already shut off from the world?
My memory of it is that it happened after the molestation started, that he really got abusive, sort of emotionally, you know, every time we were working together, every time I was with him. But I feel, in my memory, tells me that happened afterwards. So it might have actually been part and parcel of the grooming process, really, to keep me weak and pliable.
Right, right. Now, tell us about what's the name? Gay.
And my grandmother, Gay. That's what we called her, Gay, because one of us, I don't know, either my older sister or I, when we were kids, we couldn't say grandma, somebody said Gay, and so she became Gay forever. I mean, I was calling her Gay when I was like 35. I was calling her Gay.
Right. What role did she play?
At the time of the abuse, she was the only person. I didn't feel safe at home because it was happening at home. I didn't feel safe at school because, as I told you, I was ostracized. I was this weird kid, so I got beaten up a lot and picked on a lot. I didn't feel safe anywhere. But when I got to visit my grandmother, Gay, every once in a while, for that period of time, I felt happy and I felt safe because she treated me like I was the most important person in the world.
Right.
She let me watch TV shows I wanted. She had all kinds. She gave me money for the ice cream truck. She had all kinds of cookies and candy for me. She basically treated me like I was, you know, her angel. And so I felt safe with her, and that was a wonderful feeling in the middle of all that stuff.
Do you think that she knew and could tell something was wrong with you, and she made sure that anytime you came to her house that you had a mental outlet?
I didn't think that. It didn't occur to me for a long, long time. But since, like, she's passed on, my mom's passed on, all these people are gone, I've spoken to other members of my family, and some things that I've found out about Gay and about her with her own children, I now think, like you said, there's a possibility that she had a suspicion.
Right.
But I'm sure if you talk to other people who've been through this, it runs this thing where people can know but not let themselves know.
Right.
Because if they let themselves know, they have to do something overt about it, and that in itself is too much for them.
Right. Right. I get what you're saying on that. Definitely. Now, another thing I want to ask you, you said you had your other siblings. Did any of your other siblings get molested?
Yes.
How many?
Absolutely. I am not at liberty to disclose who.
I understand.
Because they're not there yet. But I mean, I will tell you, there's one who I knew definitely did not get molested, and he did not get molested basically because I got between him and my stepfather and offered myself instead.
Right, and that's what I was going to ask.
So he was way too young, and you got to think this kid, my brother was 4 years younger than me. The molestation with me started at age 7, and it was at 7 that I got between him and my younger brother. Him and my stepfather and my younger brother said, "No, you can't do this. He's too young."
And you basically said, "Sacrifice me."
Because it had been happening to me, and like I was beaten down to the point where I thought, this is my life. This is the way things are going to be. Things will always be this way. But there's this little thing I can do. I can save my little brother from being hurt, from going through this. And so that's what I did. You know, that's what you do.
But now that he's grown and you've told him his story, does he believe it?
Absolutely not.
Oh, wow.
The thing is, one of the things, element that's important in this whole situation is Harold, the one who molested me, was my stepfather. Harold, the one who molested me, was his natural father.
Oh, okay.
And I think that he can't see his own blood parent in that light. And so it's been a struggle to try to get him to understand this. And you dodge and parry, and sometimes you talk about it, and sometimes you don't. It's a family thing, you know. You don't know what to do.
Right. And
so,
that's really delicate.
He's the one I rescued, and he doesn't believe it even occurred.
So that's really delicate. But he was also ready to sacrifice his own child.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's one of the reasons that my brother and I had a lot of problems for many years, is because I was trying to keep his father away from his kids, away from my brother's kids.
Right. And I'm going to ask you something real quick. One more time. When you sacrificed yourself and said, "Hey, don't mess with him, mess with me," was that a worse rape molestation that time? Did he feel like, "Oh, okay, well, since you want this, you know how people get vicious and angry and dirty with it just to prove a point, like, don't get in the way of what I'm trying to do"?
Yeah, I mean, my father was like that. He was the kind of guy who enjoyed getting the belt out and beating the holy crap out of you.
Right.
So yeah, he was. I recall he was pretty intense that time. But then, to even saying that, there was a ramping up situation that happened all during the time I was being molested by him, where he found ways to make it worse and worse and worse.
Right.
You know, I don't want to get graphic, but like more intense and worse things he would do, and and ways he would belittle me and get me to be compliant to things. And so it just got worse. I mean, the more it went on, the worse. I couldn't even imagine how bad it was going to get when it started out.
Did he ever try to make you dress up or put on lipstick or do crazy stuff like that?
None of that stuff, but there was other stuff about magazines and that he had, and things that people were doing in them that he wanted me to do and stuff like that. And I did what he told me to do because, there's that grooming thing we talked about before. They get you to the point where you just put your head down and just do it, and just do what you're supposed to do, what you're told to do, because you have no sense of self-determination left inside of you because of what they've done to you.
Right. And man, I'm so sorry to hear what you're telling me right now, but I know you got to tell your story and you got to get it out.
Yeah.
But that's why I wanted you to come on and tell your story. Now, I want to ask you one more question, then I'm gonna move around to my panel, and we got to move fast. How did you end up in the hands of other people that molested you? Okay, it's a two-part question. How did you end up in the hands of other people that molest you? And who dropped the ball and let you be that free to be accessible to somebody else?
Well, let me answer the second part first, which is to be that free to be accessible to somebody else. That was kind of the way I was raised. There were 6 kids, ultimately. And my mom was not a very attentive parent. My mom had her own problems, things I've come to understand over the years. My mom had a lot of, I think, the same issues that I deal with myself, and post-traumatic stress disorder, and I think I have a feeling she might have been schizophrenic based on what I know about that now. Mm-hmm. And she was an alcoholic, and she had a lot of issues where she was not really a present parent.
Right.
So after she kicks my stepfather out, she's the only parent around, and he was never a good parent. So I was kind of free to roam. I mean, honestly, my mom bought me booze when I was 15 years old. Okay? So my mom was not a good parent, and I'm not saying she was a bad person. I'm just saying she wasn't a good parent.
Right.
And I pretty much just wandered around, and I got myself in situations where, because I had been through that situation of being molested on a continual basis, when that same sort of thing happened, when that situation would happen with somebody else, like I felt it going that way, I didn't have enough strength to resist. I was trained to just go and do it.
Okay.
So, yeah, I was just open to it.
Okay, Michael, let me ask you this real quick. When you said she gave you booze and gave you alcohol at 15, do you think that she really, in the back of her mind, knew that you were getting molested, but she had to medicate you and keep you medicated some kind of way to just quiet it down?
It wasn't so much medicated as I think by that time she had known what my stepfather did. He was gone. He was out of the picture.
Okay.
The other people came over the years later. But by the time she was buying me alcohol, it was still happening with some people she didn't even know. But I think she felt responsible. I think there was some part of her that felt responsible, and because her brain worked the way it did, feeling responsible meant that if I needed alcohol, like you say, to just dull the pain or whatever,
right,
that she should do that. And that was the way she kind of thought. And I think she never voiced it, but I think she felt really bad and somehow responsible that this had happened basically under her watch.
Okay.
You know?
Right. Miss Peaches, chime in.
Again, Mike, thank you for sharing with us today. And, you're helping a lot of people with your conversation and everything that you've shared. You lost you're gay, and she was really important to you in your life. Now, is this monster, is he still walking the earth?
He is still out there. I've run into the statute of limitations problem. Because until probably this year, and like I said, I'm 50 now, I couldn't even deal with it. And, and you guys do, you talk to people who've been through this all the time, so you know.
Yeah.
There's a difference between being able to pretend you are functional and being strong enough to go into a courtroom and point a finger.
Right.
And it took me too long. However, the saving grace of this is I know that the person that person abusing my stepfather isn't abusing anybody right now because he can barely lift his head. He is so feeble at this point, he can't hurt anybody.
Oh, wow.
So that at least is good. But because this is something that the discussion we get into often at the performances, that these statute of limitation laws all over the country have to change.
Right.
Because people like to talk about child molestation, and it's a nice euphemistic term. But what we're talking about here is rape, child rape.
Right.
And the pain of that rape and the long-lasting effects of that rape don't stop simply because 20 years go by.
That's right.
You know?
That's
and
right.
to stop that rapist from raping other children, you have to make it possible to prosecute that person by people who've gotten to the point where they can prosecute him, people who are older.
Right.
And, that's a big barrier right now, and that's something that, needs to be worked on, I think. It's a state-by-state thing, but also on a national level, because we could stop more predators if the adults had more time to prosecute their abusers so they could find that spot where they can do that, where they can physically and emotionally handle that.
Right.
And then they could do it, and they take that person out of the stream. Because honestly, I know people like to talk about, especially law enforcement people like to talk about pedophiles and are they recidivists, do they do it again or whatever. Yes, they do it again. The thousands upon thousands of people I know all around the country who in the world who are survivors will tell you they do it again.
Right.
And they don't get better, they get sneakier. They need to be taken out of circulation. They need to be removed from the streams so they can stop hurting kids.
Okay. Elsa, I want to go to you. Miss Peaches, thank you. Was that your question, Miss Peaches?
The only other question that I had for him, and I'll make it really fast, was with your nieces and nephews, are there any of them that you've noticed you see yourself in them at the same age, and that are you able to help them at all, or are those relationships, too distant?
Absolutely, I am able to help them. In fact, we were a pretty distant from each other type family until just a few years ago, and in a weird way, it was me doing my show that broke things open. and people are talking more to each other. Between that and the passing of my mom, which often the passing of a family member brings everybody else together.
Right.
In fact, my sister and her kids, my niece and nephew, are coming to visit in a couple of weeks. And one of the main reasons they're coming is because his mom, my sister, thinks that her son, my nephew Adam, would benefit greatly from being able to talk with me about the issues he's having with ADHD and with anxiety and things like that.
Okay.
So they're coming basically so we can actually establish a connection and I can help him out. So yeah, now in my life, finally, we're making some positive steps, which is fantastic.
Okay. All right. Ms. Good, Ms. Peaches?
Yes, thank you
Okay, because
very
we got
much for the answers.
Okay, we got to move fast. Elsa, I want to come to you. Elsa, speak on what he said about that. And Elsa, you talked about this on the phone with me. I know it was about a week ago where you said we got to make it to where those laws are in effect so we can still prosecute later on down the road. How important is that, Elsa?
That's very, very important, and I really love the fact, Michael, that you're talking about it on the air with all of the listeners, because I'm always trying to urge people, get to your legislators, write letters. There are congressmen, there are aldermen, there are all kinds of people that are supposed to be in those positions to be able to receive these letters, and I really appreciate you talking about this.
That's right.
Because one of the things that burns me when I'm in a courtroom is when I see a lot of cases don't get taken care of because of the statute of limitations. Oh, now it's too late. Why? Why is it too late? We have to change these laws to make it, like you said, to make it where we can stop these predators, because how will they be stopped if it isn't because there would be people that can really make a case? And how do you make a case? That's by having multiple witnesses, by having people that can corroborate the crimes that were committed against them, and more crimes against that person that are not only substantiated but can actually be proven.
Right.
That's how people can build a case. And like you said, remove these monsters out of our environment, because how else will we do it if it isn't that way? But literally, the laws are so limiting that they're not being utilized to really help our people.
That's
our
right.
communities are literally being hurt instead of benefiting from what is supposed to be the law.
I hear you. You definitely right about that. You definitely hit that on the nose. Michael, what do you think about that?
I agree 100%. I mean, you're absolutely right. I think that something I'm trying to get people to understand is that when somebody is preyed upon like that as a child, the extensive damage that is done to them, their entire psyche, their sense of self,
Right.
affects how productive a citizen they're going to be in our society.
Right.
We have to stop this, because if we stop this, we're going to have a stronger society, and it's to all of our benefit.
Right.
Exactly.
That's right. I hear you. Let me do this real quick. We're going to go to Mr. Neal. Mr. Neal, what would you like to say? Hold on. Let me do this real quick. To anybody that's just joining in, I want to thank you for joining in today. It's the Hands Off Our Children radio show. I'm your host, Cogee, with my co-host, Miss Elsa Prado. Today we have Mr. Michael Broussard on the show. He's the creator of As a Sex Abuse Survivor. He's definitely breaking it down for us and giving us, his energy, his new energy right now to help other people to grow and spin out of what they're going through so they can get back on their feet. They can talk about it, they can laugh about it, but much more, they can move through it and be a better, productive parent, uncle, cousin, brother, sister, whatever it is. And that's what it's about. And Michael, again, I commend you and I want to thank you. And you definitely are a family member to our show, and we want you to know that.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
All right, Mr. Neal.
Michael, I'm sitting here. It's a lot to take in at one time, because it's a lot to happen all at one time. But I have a question. It's kind of twofold. The question is trust, because of so much you've been through, and how do you know how to trust, the next person that enters your life, for one, and what made you overcome the barrier of what you went through to be able to trust your wife enough to marry her?
Good question.
That's a huge one, because you're absolutely right. The trust is destroyed by that experience. Let me run back a little bit. the situation with my wife is really fairly recent in my life, but honestly, as you're saying, I had a hard time trusting anybody in my life. I've had a lot of bad relationships because I repeated the pattern. I went and found people, not necessarily sexually, who would abuse me, but who abused me emotionally, who would, who would give me the same experience, the same belittling experience that I thought was supposed to be my life. And I was doing that subconsciously over and over again. And I was always walled off from whoever I was involved with. As a friend or as a romantic partner, I was walled off from them. I was trying so desperately to protect myself because I thought that I could be hurt so deeply. So I wasn't connected. And I was terrified, and I wouldn't give anyone enough rope to hang me because I was convinced that give them an inch and they will hang me, and that'll be that. And what changed in my life didn't change overnight. It changed over several years, long, hard-fought, painful years of very gradually moving a centimeter closer and closer and closer to human contact and letting somebody in more than I had previously. And this relationship I'm in now, we've been together, it's going to be 9 years this year. We've been married, and a couple of years before that. When I started this relationship, I was not open. When I started this relationship, my wife did not know what had happened to me, and I was not ready to tell her about it. It was such a scary thing to me because I was like, if I tell somebody, because I tried to tell other people, and when I told other people, they judged me. Right. And they treated me different, and it became this weird thing. So it's like I held it in and held it in. And it was my wife, Christy, saying to me years back, not long after we were married, saying to me basically, she would see me get upset, and she would see me get triggered, and she wouldn't know why. And I tended to do things like self-harm. I would hate myself so much for being this weak person who couldn't stand up and be strong and get over this, that I would literally bang my head against the wall intending to hurt myself severely. And I was just not well. And it was her saying to me, listen, I love you, but you have to go to therapy. This has got to change.
Mm-hmm.
This has got to change. If we're going to have what we have, this has got to change. And it was her urging and her saying, if this is going to work, you need to address this because I don't know what to do with you when you're like this. And I end up just feeling bad, and I can't reach you, and I can't find you to help you. So I went into therapy. And although I've been in therapy on and off during my life over many years, this was the first time that I was in therapy to save my marriage. Mm. And I loved her so much, and I loved having her in my life so much that I was motivated to dig into all the horrible things that I tried to push away from myself so I could just function. And I learned to open up to her. I learned to talk to her about what was going on. I learned that saying sometimes I can't take it is not saying I'm worthless or useless or you shouldn't respect me.
No,
so that had a lot to do with it. The trust. I go to the point that I could trust her enough to be with her, but then the trust of actually sharing this with her came from long, hard-fought, painful therapy, opening it up wide enough to let it really hit me again because I'd walled myself off from it for survival reasons.
Okay, so theoretically...
Hold on, wait 1 minute. We got a caller that just called in. His name is Ed. Ed, how you doing today? And you want to talk about the statute of limitations?
Yeah, I've been listening to the show, and you guys brought that up. That's something that's so near and dear to my heart. And the thing is, I don't think most Americans and most voters understand the concept of what it is, and therefore there's no outcry over it.
Right.
Statute of limitations is illegal on a couple different fronts. One is it's something that was mostly pushed through by insurance companies, which can't vote, and religious lobbies, and mostly, namely the Catholic Church. And anytime, part of the reason that religious institutions have a tax-exempt status, part of that, the qualifications for that, is to not be politically involved. Mm-hmm. So that right there, the Catholic Church should lose their tax-exempt status, and somebody should really question them wanting to fund such a law. Right. And the other side of that is, we have the separation of powers in this country. We have 3 different branches of government. And when our founding fathers designed the Constitution and designed the three-branch system, the judicial system being able to declare any act by the legislature or the executive branch as, to be unconstitutional is what gave people the ultimate power. The judicial system was designed to be the public's last ray of hope against an overbearing legislative or executive branch. When the legislature passes these limits on a prosecutor's discretion, when it takes it out of their hands and says, we're not going to let you try cases unless they happen in this time frame, they're infringing on the most fundamental aspect of our Constitution, which is the division of powers.
Right.
And I can't believe for the life of me how no court in this country has ever declared those statutes to be unconstitutional.
Right.
But since they won't do it, the public should. And this should be, we're entering an election cycle now. We've got politicians, coming up with their platforms. This is something that should be on everybody's tongue. Everybody should understand what the statute of limitations does, how they came to be in existence, and who it is they're really benefiting.
That's right. I hear you. I agree with you. Can I ask you something real quick, caller? Out of respect, you don't have to say your real name and not, if it ain't your real name. But every question that I ask somebody, I want y'all to teach, and I want y'all to definitely bring the knowledge. Have you ever been through any kind of abuse?
Yes, sir.
What kind of abuse have you been through, real quick?
I grew up in a foster care home where within the home there was a lot of physical abuse, torture, neglect. Outside of the home there was rape, and the foster parents, who were also teachers, covered that up.
I want to ask you. I want to do this because Mr. Neal just slid me a note, and just said he can't be here next Wednesday in the first hour. Next week in the first hour, caller, if you'll stay on the phone, I want you to be on the show, and I want to invite you back again, Michael. Is that okay?
Oh, that would be great. Thank you so much.
I want both of y'all to be on the show at the same time because I want both of y'all to have the knowledge out there and, bring us up to speed on what went on in the foster home. And then, you as well, Michael, talking about your youth, how you lost your youth and what it meant to lose your youth, because you'll never get 6 and 7 and 8, 9 and 10. You'll never get that back again.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? But caller,
Absolutely.
I thank you so much for caring to call in to talk. And I do want you to be a part of the show. Is that okay with you?
Well, I'll tell you, sir, I'm honored, and I will if I can.
Okay.
I'm actually going to be flying from North Carolina to Los Angeles next Wednesday to be a speaker and moderator at the 2015 Script Conference, which is dealing with male survivors and abuse and the stigmas they face in society and employment.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, if I leave you on the phone with my producer, is it okay we won't give your information out to nobody. We won't say who you are. We don't do that on the show at all. We keep everything confidential because we want you to be able to talk freely, not have to worry about your identity and everything, and really get it out there so we can help our youth. Is that okay?
Yes, sir, it is. I'd be happy to.
All right. Well, you stay on the phone. And I do, again, from me being the host and my co-host, Miss Elsa Prado, we thank you so much. Elsa, real quick, I want you to let him know how much we do appreciate that when these calls come in.
Oh, no, I definitely, as you heard me probably just a few minutes ago, that's one of the biggest things that I try to bring up. And I really want our listeners, and I urge people every single time that we need to write to our people that are in these positions, because if we don't, like you said, how else will we get these statutes of limitations to change? How will we help to benefit our children, our future?
Right. And what we can do with our caller on the phone and, also with Michael and Elsa, us and our whole team, we'll put our heads together and we'll start off and we'll do what we need to do to make it happen. What do y'all think about that? I'm up for it. Y'all got I'm with you.
I'm 100% behind this idea because this is what I've been saying. We need a coalition to make this happen.
Right. Okay. Well, hey, you know what? Let's not talk about it. Let's get it started. We have to put our heads together and we got to start it. We got to start it. You know what I'm saying? We can't wait for other people to do it. We got to put it in motion. Y'all get my vote. You got my show as a platform, 3 hours. I'm here for y'all. I'll do whatever I need to do to make this happen, man, for the betterment of our children. Okay?
Great. Fantastic.
All right. So caller, stay on the phone. I'm going to pass you to my producer right now. All right. So we back Michael, and like I said, I definitely want to thank our caller. That was like really cool that he called in. But, you know, for him to be on the show and talk about the foster care and what children go through in foster care is really huge. I want to go to you real quick because you've been silent. What do you think about the show today, and what would you want to say to Michael real quick? We on short time. And Michael, my producer, does she have your phone number, Michael?
Yes, she does, but I'll make sure. I'll send it to her again just to make sure.
Okay, because I was going to say, we're going to talk to you after the show today, and I welcome you back to the show. You can even be a member of the show. You could call in from out of town and be a panel guest, you know, with us on every show.
Wow.
I want to always keep you growing and keep you able to move forward with the strength of all of us. You know what I'm saying? All right, so I
really, truly appreciate that because we have to work together. The reality is there's so many of us out there, and I don't think most people realize how many survivors there are out there.
Right.
There's a large enough number of us. If we all moved in the same direction, we could achieve any change we wanted.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Hold on, wait a minute. 1 minute, Mike. We down a short time, but E ain't got to say nothing on the show. Real quick, E.
Yeah, I mean, I do have some questions, but I'll save those for next week since he's going to be back. Michael, I just wanted to say thank you for coming on, and I look forward for you being on future shows as well. As someone who's lived a relatively sheltered life, I always look forward to new information coming in about people who do need help, and I really appreciate you putting this information out there. I know it takes a lot of strength, and I look forward to next episode as well.
Thank you so much. I mean, I truly appreciate that acknowledgement because, it does take a lot of strength, but I also draw a lot of that strength from the people who come to the shows. And can I say something about the tour? Is that okay?
Okay, real quick. Go ahead. I want you to.
Just like a short little bit.
Okay.
I'm currently putting together a national tour for Ask a Sex Abuse Survivor. I booked a couple of dates. I'm working on some others. I'm trying to cover the whole country. Anybody who's interested in having the show come to where they are so they can see it and they can be involved, go to my website, sexabusesurvivor.com, and click on the contact and send me a message so I know where you are because that's how I'm going to know where to go.
Right.
The dates, there's a couple dates up there now, more than are going to be added. Please tell me where you want the show to be because I'm trying to reach as many fellow survivors as I possibly can so we can together heal and get stronger.
Michael, can you send it to me and I'll put it on my website? I'll make it boom. I mean, I'll make it huge on my website. Whatever I can do for you, you just let us know and I'm going to do it for you. I want you to be able to go out there and reach the people that I can't reach. You get what I'm saying? I can't get everybody. So that's perfect for me to help my fellow person, you know, out that can help somebody. That's what I want to do for you. Okay.
Thank you so much. I truly appreciate that.
Okay.
I have met so many people who are so supportive, and I have also helped so many other people out with their causes and relations, and we're already a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, that's right. You know what? I want to ask you this question real quick. We on real short time. If you had a child, what would be difficult? Different. What would be different?
Child, what would be? You said difficult or different?
No, what would be different if you had a child?
What would be different? Well,
yeah.
I'll tell you, I don't have kids, and one of the reasons I don't have kids is because of my bad experience with parents.
I hear you.
And so I think the problem with me is, and this is a good thing, but it's a bad thing. I am so incredibly protective, and there's still this thing in my head where sometimes I inappropriately, I think, feel suspicious of parental figures in other people's lives. And in children I know, I worry. I think that I would be so incredibly hyper vigilant that I would make the child crazy.
I hear you.
Because if anybody messed with my child, or even there was a sniff that somebody messed with my child, I would be down there so fast it would make their head spin.
Right, I hear you.
And I think I might be too protective, and I wouldn't let them go out and do their thing, which is one of the reasons I haven't been a parent, because I feel like I don't want to pass that sort of smothering thing on to somebody.
Right. But hold on, Mike. This is what we're going to do. We're going to save some for next Wednesday because you'll be on with us the whole show. Mm-hmm. But what I want to do, Elsa, real quick, words of encouragement.
Sure. I just encourage everybody to keep listening to Hands Off Our Children because we are bringing it together. We're educating.
That's
we're bringing a lot of good information.
Okay. Bernie Mac, real quick.
Hey, I thank everybody. I enjoy listening. Like I said before, you need to learn 3 new things a day. Michael has enlightened us. Elsa has enlightened us, and it's been great. So I appreciate being here today.
E.
I appreciate being here every week. I think more people should call in, keep talking, talk about your problems, because they're not going to get solved until you do.
That's right. Miss Peaches, real quick.
Thanks for having me, Cogee. Everyone did a great job today, and strength is in numbers. So let's keep collecting people along our journey and making our movement bigger and bigger.
Okay. And to everybody, like I said, who just joined in, I guess, Michael Broussard, he's the creator of Ask a Sex Abuse Survivor. Michael, thank you for being on today. It's been a great show. I'm looking forward to talking to you after the show and, for you to be back on the show whenever you can. I mean, we support you. We love you. We got faith in you, man, that you're going to do a great job and change a lot of lives. And that's why we're here to put people in the right position to do that. All right?
You're amazing. Thank you so much, all of you. Thank all of you.
Thank you.
For
so
support. It's just incredible.
Okay, thank you. So to everybody around the world, all my listeners, all my Cogee loved ones, I want to say thank you. Much love to you guys. Check us out on Facebook. Join us, follow us, and definitely be a part of the movement. Much love to you guys, and we'll see you next week. Stay safe, and always know we got your back.